All right. Hello, everybody. Let us see if this is working. It appears to be. This is, hi, welcome to Critical Q&A, number 429. Let me go ahead and mute that over there since it looks like our sound is working. I have changed everything behind the scenes right now. And so I'm a little nervous this morning. Here we go. Comments coming in. And okay, yes, foggy beaches near Big Blue. Okay, excellent. So it looks like we have a comment stream going. Let's go ahead and switch over to the screen where we have our comments show up on the screen there, which should hopefully start appearing shortly. Okay, just looking, there we go. Okay, so that's filling up, and it looks like we are excellent. Okay, I'm just a little nervous this morning because I've got a new PC here on this desk that is not my usual PC. And if you've been keeping up with me lately, I've been making some studio changes and upgrades, and with your help. And it's been awesome. Some of you have been contributing some equipment that I have requested or asked for on an Amazon wish list called my Ideal Studio wish list. And I haven't even gotten half of it yet, and I'm already upgrading stuff here. And I got this to get this PC set up, and so now I am streaming. The stream is controlled all from here, and this is a big change for me because it was controlled by this computer that was over there. This is all kind of behind the scenes stuff. Some of you probably don't care, but it's just gives me more control over here. But this is the first time I'm doing it. I did a couple tests this morning, and I'm still sorting stuff out, but so far it seems like it's all good. Now, this is a Q&A show, so let's go ahead and start a Q&A. I will, like I did the last time, put your questions here under this comment, so I can see them. Okay, good. All right, let's go ahead and get that started. So now I've posted a Q&A comment, and I am only seeing on my screen here in front of me your questions under my comment where I posted, put your questions here under this comment so I can see them. So for the questions you're going to ask me during the show, put them there under that statement, and then they will, here we go, like young Matador just did, and then I will be able to see them and address them. There we go. Doesn't your new monitor let your book be? Yes. Here, let's put my book here. Let's see if that will stick up here. All right, let's see if that holds up there. Oh, nope. Okay, I'm gonna have to get a book stand here. I'm gonna have to do like a formal thing, I think. I am so unprepared for some things. You think about all this stuff. That's probably gonna fall again, but you think about all this stuff, and then live comes, and you're like, oh yeah, that. Anyway, yeah, good. Okay, good. Yes, I'm seeing your questions coming in here. Excellent. So you know what? Let's just go ahead and start getting to it. I see we're getting some kind of super chat action as well, which is awesome. Those I don't show up in this Q&A box, and so I will see. Anyway, thank you very much for your support and your super chats, guys. But the super chat questions you ask, they have to be under this thing or I won't see them. I'm not sure about the back and forth of that, but that's kind of how this stuff works at this time, at least. Let me go ahead and get something else up on the screen for myself so I can see sort of the live chat as it's happening here. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Laura. Thank you for that super chat. Now I see that. Okay, good. Good. So let's get back over to the questions and let's start answering some. Okay. I'm going to try to relax now that this is all working. I was getting some crazy sound echoing before, and I was really freaking out about it, but it looks like it was a monitor audio thing, and it's not part. Anyway, I'm very glad that's not an issue now. So, did you ever, Young Matador asks, let's see if I can throw this up on the, there it is. Excellent. Good. Did you ever attend the IAS event in Grinstead? No, I have never been to East Grinstead. I've only been to England once or twice, technically, flying through. I had a layover or, a stay at Gatsbury or whatever not Heathrow, but the other one. That's the only time I've ever been to England and had my feet on the ground of that country. So I have not been to East Grinstead. I would like to go at some point. I think it would be an interesting ex-Scientology pilgrimage to make. But I have not been there. Okay, let's carry on here. Yes. Liz D. Okay, here's a great question. Liz D asks, what makes a class 5 org class 5? Are there class 1, 2, 3, 4 orgs? Okay, great question. So the way that the orgs in Scientology are classified is according to what they can train. Now, this has all sort of been thrown for a loop in the last 20 years. But the system for the hierarchy of Scientology organizations is based on what class of auditor that organization can create. And it was built this way to emphasize that Scientology is about making auditors. And auditors then go out and do the auditing. But you can't have any auditing happening if there are no auditors. And auditors are the Scientology practitioners. They're the ones who are actually delivering the goods of Scientology. And I'll call them bads because they're not really goods. There you go, as your play on my dad joke for this morning. But that's how they are classified because Hubbard stressed making auditors. That was the entire point of Scientology organizations, was to get in public, to get in public and sell them materials and deliver Scientology services to them. This is the only reason orgs exist, right? Is to make auditors and make clears. And so the classification system for orgs was built around how high can they train an auditor? Because the auditors in Scientology are on a classification system. The lowest level auditor is not even a classified auditor. They're book 1 auditors. They read Dianetics and they learn how to audit Dianetics book 1 style, 1950 style, with each other. And that's not even using an e-meter. It's just the very basic Dianetics auditing. And that does not have a class connected with it. That's just called a book 1 auditor. And any mission, any Scientology group, anywhere can create that level of auditor. All you got to do is read Dianetics and talk about it or do a little seminar or workshop on it, and you can start auditing Dianetics, right? So that's your lowest level of Scientology or Dianetics auditor. But when you start talking about classification and the classified levels of auditor, you're talking about what are called the professional auditor training levels, or the academy, the full levels, right? These are class 0, class 1, class 2, and you go start at class 0 and you go on up the levels of Scientology auditor training. And it used to be that the current class 5 orgs were classified as class 4 orgs because they made class 4 auditors. They could train students on class 0 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And that was as high as they could go. So they were called class 4 orgs. That's changed, and now they are called Class 5 orgs because they can deliver auditor training up to the level of Class 5, which is a new era Dianetics auditor. Now, I'm throwing a lot of terminology around here. I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm not getting into all of the specifics of what each of these levels delivers. There's a whole video I did, by the way, that breaks all this down. It breaks down every single step of the bridge, the whole chart, and the auditor training is on that chart. It's the left-hand column. You go up the auditing side and you go up the training side. You're supposed to do both in Scientology. So the Class 4 orgs, now they're called Class 5 orgs, and that's as far as they go. It's Class 5. The St. Hill organizations are the first level of Sea Org orgs. They're manned and run by Sea Org members on Sea Org bases, and those are Class 6 organizations. They deliver, or they used to deliver, this is where everything got screwy. But up to 20 years ago, they were delivering the St. Hill Special Briefing Course, the biggest, most expansive course that exists in Scientology. It's called the St. Hill Special Briefing Course. It takes a year full time to get through that course, and it's only offered at the St. Hill level organizations, the Class 6 organizations, or the St. Hills. There's a St. Hill in LA. It's called ASHO, the American St. Hill organization. There's a St. Hill, obviously, in St. Hill, East Grinstead. The manor, that property, that organization is a St. Hill organization. That's part of the property there. There's also the next level organization up, which is a Class 8 organization. That's an advanced organization. They deliver up through OT5 on the auditing side, but they also deliver up to the Class 8 course, which is the highest level that a public level Scientologist or a staff member can go is Class 8. And that's a higher level of auditor training that is supposed to be perfection itself. You're supposed to be like the perfect auditor at Class 8. Class 9 is an auditor who can deliver OT5. And that's only delivered to Sea Org members. Only Sea Org members can train on that class so that they can deliver OT5. No public person and no staff member can do that class. So Class 9 organizations would be like AOLA, the Advanced Organ LA. That, I said that they're Class 8 organizations, but actually, it's Class 9 because they can make Class 9 auditors. Anyway, and then you have Class 10, 11, and 12, which are flag only. That's the flag service organization in Clearwater, Florida. That is a Class 12 organization. So they go Class 5, Class 6, Class 8, and Class 12. That's the levels of Scientology organizations, because there are no orgs that only specialize in delivering up to Class 1 or Class 2 or Class 3. They go all the way up to 5, right? Anyway, that's how that works. I know it's a lot of, it would be a lot easier to show if I had some diagrams. Gatwick, that's what it's called, yeah. But that's the classification system for Scientology churches or organizations. And there is only one Class 12 organization, and that's Flag. And they're the best of the best of the best in everything, and that's why they're called a Class 12 organization. This is really, by the way, kind of Scientology minutia as a question. And that's not a hit at you for asking, Liz. I just mean it's pretty deep. Even normal public Scientologists don't talk about organizations or churches this way. They just talk about going down to the local org or going to Flag or going to ASHO. They call them by name rather than by classification level. But that's how that works. I hope that was clear. Okay, let's carry on here. Okay, now remember, Anthony, to get those questions into the chat area or into the question box, or otherwise I won't see them as easily. Okay, so the villain asks here a related question. Let me see if I can pull this up. Oops, sorry. Come on back. All right, there we go. I do have a question. I learned ASHO doesn't do SHSBC anymore. Yes, exactly. But that was its whole reason d'etre, distinguishing it from a class 5, that, and the don't talk about my case fashion statements. Yeah. This is Miscavige's doing. Let me get a drink here. So, about 10 years ago, something like that, 8 or 9 years ago, something. Miscavige changed the structure and layout of the American St. Hill organization and the PAC base. He converted LA org to a Sea org. Now it's manned by Sea Org members, even though it's a class 5 organization, which is supposed to be 5-year contracted staff members, regular staff. It's now Sea Org. Then he converted ASHO into one organization. It had been 2 different organizations operating in the same building. It had been ASHO Day for the day hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, and the ASHO Foundation, which was nights and weekends. He combined those. This is exactly contrary to, just as an example, I'm not saying that Hubbard had it right and Miscavige changed it to make it worse, but I'm saying Miscavige changed it in a way that L. Ron Hubbard would cut his goddamn balls off. He would be furious with Miscavige for just this one thing that Miscavige ordered changed. And this was 100% Miscavige. Nobody else could get away with this. He made it so that it is one combined organization, the American St. Hill organization, and he basically canceled, without canceling it, he said the St. Hill Special Briefing Course delivery is on hold while the course is being revised. And that's been going on for 10 years now, or just about. So nobody has been able to do that Class 6 St. Hill Special Briefing course in all this time. Miscavige shut down L. Ron Hubbard's pride and joy, the St. Hill Special Briefing course. L. Ron Hubbard spent 6 years, from 1960 to 1966, delivering that course. It consists of over 400 lectures that L. Ron Hubbard gave over that 6-year period, plus all the books, a bunch of other lectures, a ton of all the auditing material, all of the red volumes, all of it is covered in this course. You read everything, you listen to everything. And this was the heart and soul of Scientology, this course. This was the place where you went to learn the entire chronological development of Scientology from beginning to end. And everything Hubbard had to impart and teach that he thought was important, other than the OT levels, which are not covered in that class, everything up to the OT levels, every method of clearing, every method of case auditing, every method of case repair, it's pretty much all on the Class 6 course. There's a few other things that come with Class 8, but most of it is on the Class 6 course. And Miscavige doesn't give a shit about auditors. He doesn't care about making auditors. And Hubbard said that the only way that Scientology is going to continue and survive is by making auditors. And he's right, because auditors are the carriers of the Scientology messaging. They are the ones who actually deliver the Scientology manipulation, the services, the things that actually mess with you psychologically, and will cause you to go into those deep euphoric states that we talk about. That's auditing. And nothing else in Scientology holds a candle to the power of what auditing is going to do to you. So, you can read the books, you can listen to the lectures, you can go to the events, you can be regged, you can be RPF'd, you can have all this different stuff happen to you in Scientology that is manipulative, that is coercive, that is even psychologically damaging, that is indoctrinating, that will mess with you. But none of that, if all of that is like this much compared to what auditing does to you. Auditing is where it's at. And so Miscavige, this is why I've been saying for years, Miscavige has basically gutted Scientology by not emphasizing auditor training and making new auditors and getting auditing happening. That's where all the magic of Scientology is, right? That's where the real manipulation happens. So it's fascinating to me. It's absolutely fascinating to me that Miscavige is in charge of this multi-billion-dollar, mind control operation, and he doesn't himself actually seem to understand what it is about his con that actually works. Even if he's a believer, as Mitch Brisker says, and as I've gone over, right, even if he's a true believer in the subject and he thinks it's really the shit and Scientology is where it's at, he's running it right off a cliff because of this one point. It's really quite an important point. I can't stress it enough. Anyway, and that's one of the reasons why Miscavige is hastening the decline of Scientology. If he was really focused, like laser focused on the things Hubbard was laser focused on before he went crazy, I'm talking about 1960s Hubbard, right? 1950s and 60s Hubbard is when Hubbard kind of had his head on a little more rationally. I'm not saying that he was a saint or a good guy or he was doing good work. I'm saying the exact opposite. I'm saying when he was his most crafty and his most effective and his most coercive is during the 50s and 60s when he was formulating and building Scientology. And he's the one who said and realized you have to make the auditors. You got it, right? And if you don't, this thing isn't going to work. And he was right. And it's not working. And that's one of the reasons why. It's really it's such an interesting thing. Anyway, so the villain, there's your answer to that question. I hope that made some sense here. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, X-Cyan asked me a question here about my news show this week. What similarities do you see between the Socorro cult and Scientology? I reported this week on my CCN Critical Cult News show. I hope you guys are checking that out. It posts on Thursday. I did a report about a cult operating in Manila in the Philippines, or at least being investigated in Manila, but it's operating out of a place called Socorro Town. And this is over in the Philippines. And this is a cult that has been basically this 22-year-old kid, really, this guy, has sort of taken over and morphed this social group into a cult. And there's a lot of kids involved, and there's guns involved, and there's child marriages and sex abuse. And it's a really, really decadent, disgusting story. What similarities do I see? Well, cult similarities, really. I mean, my first answer is kind of, dogmatically, not a lot. This is a Christian-based cult in Socorro. The leader is called Santo Nino, baby Jesus. He's considered Jesus reincarnate, right? And so there's a whole Christian mythology, and the threats are all around you're going to go to hell, like for real. Like if you don't have sex with this adult man, 12-year-old girl, you're going to go to hell, and so is your whole family and all this, right? That's the threat. And of course, they have guns. So it's a very kind of paramilitary operation. It's pretty, and it's pretty built up around this guy, right? This dude, the Santo Nino guy, or Senor Algante or something. Okay. So we have all the same cult structures there: cult leader, cult personality gone wild, right? But otherwise, I don't know. I'm not really seeing a lot of similarities. They don't have an auditing process or procedure. He's not really that good at coercive control. He's really good at militant control and at resource control, because this is a disaster area. This was a place that was apparently ravaged by earthquakes a few years ago. They're still rebuilding. They're still figuring things out. Water wasn't available. This was one of the ways that this cult leader rose to power oops, there it went. And I'm not going to go down and pick it up right now. So sorry, guys. I will definitely get a little book stand, though, because that's something I need to keep up here. Okay, now, he was using and it was sort of an opportunistic cult creation based on the natural disasters that happened there, right? So it's kind of hard for me to see a lot of similarities other than structural authoritarian framework similarities, right, in terms of methods of control. But I'm not super familiar yet with the exposure that I had to this reporting. There were about 4 or 5 stories that I read about it. I didn't get super detailed layouts of his coercive management or control, right, what he was doing. So that's about all I can really say. I'm sorry, it's a bit of a perfunctory answer, but that's what I can tell you about it right now, at least. Okay. Now, here's an interesting question that nobody has ever asked me before. Let me think about this one. Hi, Chris. Just a general question. Pull that back up there. Where'd it go? Do you think if you'd encountered Scientology as an adult, you would have taken an interest in it? Let me think about that for a second. I don't think so. If I hadn't grown up with it, of course, my life would have been incredibly different. So I'm trying to think of answering this question as though I had no exposure to Scientology growing up, right? Because as a second gen, I was primed for Scientology. I was all set up so that when I went into the church when I was 15, I was like, show me what you got, right? And they did, and I was an easy mark. I was very, very easy to get. Because my parents were so involved and I had been around it for so many years and understood some of the basic principles already. If I'd walked in there cold, I'm trying to think of what I would have been like, and I would have been very different. And I don't know that it really would have had a lot of appeal for me, you know? Yeah. I was a really kind of cocksure kid. I was very self-confident. I don't think I was egotistical any more than any other teenager was, but I was very, kind of cocky a little bit, and in an intellectual way, not in a physical way. I was very not that way physically. I didn't get into fights. I wasn't, into my physicality as a teenager. I was into my brains and reading and learning and, sort of domination through intellectuality, right? I could outsmart you rather than outgun you or outbeat you. And so I think I would have sort of prided myself on seeing through Scientology if I'd approached it, in that way, as a teen or as a young or as an adult. Yeah, I don't think I would have fallen for it, actually. Just me as myself. I just don't think I would have. But the entire circumstances of my life were contriving to make me fall for it, and I did. And so, yeah, good question. It's a thought-provoking one, as you can see. Okay, let's carry on here. Xyan asks, are you happy with the new, with how the new format of your Critical Occult News on Thursdays turned out? No, not yet. Not at all. I very much have more schemes and plans for that show, and I want to bring in video. I want to bring in more imagery. I want to do more visually with that show. Right now, I just sort of throw some pictures up and then monologue about the story, and I'd like to have a bit more AV going with that. And that's one of the drivers for me getting more control here, is so I can do more with that show, as well as maybe my other live streams as well. So, yeah. So that's my answer on that one. Just so you guys know, I don't know that I'm ever happy with my content or the format of it or the layout. My critical Q&A shows, these shows, have been the most consistent, and the Sensibly Speaking podcasts have pretty much just been podcasts, right, on video. But even the Sensibly Speaking podcast, I totally changed up the format, and I'm going to do it again as I switch over to the Speaking of Cults. I'm going to change that probably in the next month or so. but I'm always tweaking. I'm always trying to fiddle with things and make them better and figure out better ways of presenting information to you guys and do it in a more interesting way and, kind of more energetic way, because I'm a little slow and rambling sometimes, I think, and that kind of thing. So, anyway, so I'm always kind of trying to work on formatting of my stuff. So there we go with that. Let's see here. Next question. You guys are great. You're throwing the questions at me here. Oh my God. What? You went into a X-Sign. I'm not sure what the question is here, but you're saying we would go into TR8. We would go into a parking lot, car, windows up. I wonder what the neighbors or passerbys thought. When I told the twin it didn't matter how loud I was, that was my cognition. Your favorite? I'm not sure which favorite you're referring to there, X-Sign, and asking me this question. You're, of course, talking about the upper end dock TRs and screaming at an ashtray, and you guys apparently went out and did it in the parking lot in a car, which I'm having a very hard time seeing how that would work, but I guess you could do it in the back seat or something. That's interesting. Wow. And so, yeah, that was your cognition. Okay, I don't know. Can you rephrase that? Can you restate that as a question? I'm not quite tracking with what you're trying to ask me there. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I can definitely comment on this, X-Lion. Paula White has lately been praising and partnering with billionaire Mooney's cult leader, Hak Jahan Moon, widow of Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Can you comment about that? Jesus, Paula White, man, talk about... I do not have kind words about that woman in any sense. There are people who I think are so, you don't know these people as individuals, and so they just become caricatures, right, of themselves. So I'm sure that there's a human being somewhere under Paula White's, human skin somewhere. I'm sure there's a person there, but I'd never seen it. I've never seen the person. I've only seen this charlatan, right? This complete fake woman who pretends to speak with or for God and be this holy person and just kind of join up with power figures or people, right? It's just influence peddling. It's con artistry, right? It's using religion as a blatant cash and influence grab. That's who Paula White is, if I'm thinking of the right person. And her hooking up with Moon's widow, a match made in hell. Like this is just pure scummery. This is awfulness. This is people who are colluding to do evil in the world. That's what I think about that. I don't have any idea what the hell they're even doing, right? But I know that no good's going to come out of that. These are bad people. I used to not think about people in terms of black, white, good, bad, but there are lines you can draw, right? There are ways you can think about this where it's not necessarily going into cultic thinking. I'm not trying to be like a cultic, simplistic thinker here. But there are people who the balance of their lives is spent manipulating and hurting people, injuring people, taking advantage of people, right? Getting one over on other people so that they can be aggrandized. That's not good. There's no definition of good. There's no interpretation of good that works for. They're just bad. They're just bad people. And that's who I think of. That's how I think about those folks. I'm sure I could do a deep dive and go into all the details of why and how they're bad people, but we already know, right? They con people. They lie to people. They are fraudsters. They make money off the gullibility and good hopes and dreams of good people. And I think that there is almost nothing worse, than the kind of people who do that. Okay. Now, on the other hand, X-Lion also asks, ever watch the movie The Life of Brian and the movie Dogma? Funny? Yes. Yes. I love Monty Python. I absolutely love Monty Python. That is 100% my kind of humor. Life of Brian was not their funniest movie. I thought that Meaning of Life and I thought certainly Holy Grail were very much funnier. But it was good. It was good stuff. You know, it was obviously doing what it was trying to do in parodying the whole life of Jesus thing and stuff. And I thought they did a great job. I mean, really did. I thought they did a good send up in a lot of ways of showing the ridiculousness of cultic thinking and how people will argue. I didn't have an argument in that. Wasn't that the one about the sandals or, you know, whether you would or wouldn't wear something or something like that? Like the most ridiculous things to hate each other over, people will do it. Right? They'll faction, they'll group off and tribalize over the stupidest stuff. And the movie kind of showed that. Dogma really took the Catholic Church to town, man. That one really went deep. And I thought it was great. I mean, the basic illogic of it all and the sort of silliness of it and the Jesus thing. George Carlin's role in that was awesome. So I thought that was pretty good. Okay, Justin Hobbs asks here. Let me see if I can pull this one up. There it is. Forgive me. There it is again. Forgive me if this is a stupid question, but is this an Ask Me Anything live stream? Yes, my critical Q&As are Ask Me Anything. You can fire away. I might not answer you if it's a dumb question, but if it's something I want to take up, I will definitely answer you. Yeah, absolutely. Ask me anything you want. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Oh, Anthony, here's a great question. Would Scientology simply not exist if it had started when the internet was around? Yeah. There's no way that Scientology could handle, not the way it was done. Let's be clear, not the way it was done. There are tons of internet cults right now. There's a bunch of people, Leon Shanti, Teal Swan, right? These types of people who are using the internet effectively to control people, to sell product, to lay out a path toward spiritual enlightenment or ability or therapy or pseudo-therapy sort of practices. There's a bunch of that going on right now. And L. Ron Hubbard, had he been a creature of now rather than, the early 1900s and come up during World War II and come up in the 1950s, had that man existed now, he could absolutely use the internet to his advantage, and he would, in order to sell his schemes and plans, and he would have figured that out. Hubbard was a very cunning and very crafty guy. He was not a stupid man. He was an incredibly egotistical, he was megalomaniac, he was a pathological liar, but he wasn't stupid. And he was very clever about how he would manipulate people. And he was at the level of, he was a master manipulator, if you will, right? I mean, in other words, he's a guy who was really fully professional at it. He was a trained hypnotist. He was a decent writer when it came to the nonfiction stuff. I will rag on that guy's fiction all day long. Worst possible crap ever. But his fiction writing, he could put words together that would inspire, that would motivate, that would improve, that would, pump up your morale, that would really get you going. And I'll give that to him because it's kind of obvious to me. I don't feel like I even have to give it to him. I mean, look, people follow him. He has a way with words. So could he do that now? Yes. He definitely could, but he couldn't do it the same way. He would not be able to tell the same lies that are so easily discredited, right? You'd have to have a whole different fiction that he could create and create a paper trail or not have any backstory and just present it a whole different way so that you don't have to fact check his biography and find out what a dickhead he is, right? So I think the answer to the question is that that it could exist in a different way or in a different form, but could it exist as it is now with the internet? No, clearly it can't, because the internet is Scientology's Vietnam. It's completely taking it out and hastening its demise. So good question, Anthony. Now, Leslie asks me, Chris, what do you think you would be doing now if you'd never been in Scientology. I'll tell you what I think I'd be doing, what I was on the road trying to do with my life, and what I was really very serious about doing was becoming a fiction story writer. I wanted to be a novelist. I wanted to write novels. I had written short stories as a kid. I had written and outlined stories for novel length stories. I was very much into telling fantasy stories. I was an avid D&D player and really into the whole fantasy milieu sort of thing, Dungeons and Dragons and all that. And that was where I was going. I was also into horror, a dark fantasy, if you will. I liked horror a lot. I liked reading Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Robert McCammon. These were central writers to me growing up. In terms of consuming all of their work and wanting to follow in their footsteps. I'm sure a lot of people want to follow in Stephen King's footsteps, but I was actually really serious about it. I wasn't play acting at it. I was writing, and I was going to go to school, and I was going to do that. And I had very, very big goals in that direction. And I thought I had the skill set to do it. I was told, my writing is what got me into the honors program in my high school. My test scores didn't, but my writing, actual samples of my writing did. And I was going to pursue that through college. And had Scientology not recruited me, I would have finished community college and gone on and made some money and gone on to a real university. Now, of course, if my parents hadn't been involved in Scientology, maybe they even would have helped pay for my college, because they grew up, they came up in Scientology where I was definitely not getting a college fund. And that's no hit on my parents. I'm just saying that was the situation. So I had to pay for my own college, and that's why I was doing community college when I got recruited to join staff. So that's what I think I would have been doing, or at least that was the path I was set to go on. Of course, anything could have come along to derail that or change that. But that was 100% what my interests were in and where they lie. The other thing that maybe would have been of interest to me, or that I would have pursued, would have been something in screenwriting or filmmaking, because I was really, 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 really big on being involved in filmmaking when I was a kid. I studied film. I studied film directors. I studied special effects and effects design. I could easily see myself as being somebody who could have followed in Adam Savage's footsteps as a model builder at ILM, wanting to pursue that kind of thing. I could easily have gone in that direction as well. I wasn't a big avid model maker, but I was really into special effects, and maybe I would have gone digital or something with the computer age, stuff like that. Obviously, you can see I've given this a little bit of thought. This is kind of the sort of stuff I would have been pursuing, though, had I not been recruited for staff. And damn it, had my life go in a very different direction. Okay, Ron, this is an interesting question. Ron Mowgli asks, what is the best way to get your people willing to listen to important information about Scientology as a high-control group/cult? My family say they aren't Scientology anymore, but still think in Scientologies. Okay. I'm not totally sure, Ron, about everything you're asking me there, but I think you're asking me about how to get cult information to your family members who are ex-members now. Like, how do you get them to get the whole picture? If that's what you're asking, and that's what I understand from your question, I would do two approaches. I would, one, encourage them very, very heavily to stop thinking with the language and stop using it openly or in their conversation. I would tell them that the reason for that is because Scientology has harmful concepts mixed up in it, and thinking with the language keeps those concepts in place. Maybe they'll go for that. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll take your word for it. Maybe they won't. Another approach, or another thing to do as well, is to show them or express interest in documentaries or shows about other cults than Scientology. yes, after Going Clear and Scientology in the Aftermath are great things to show people who are getting out of Scientology. And if you can get them to watch those documentaries, please do. But if they're resistive to it, or they don't want to hear critical stuff about Scientology, or they somehow are not in an interested headspace about that, I'm fine, I'm over it, it's all done. Okay. Show them how to become a cult leader. Show them Wild Wild West. Show them Happy Shiny People. Show them the thing about the university guys. Show them. There's a ton of documentaries and shows about cults out there. And the more you show them, the more you're teaching them about their own experience without them realizing that's what you're doing necessarily. And these are very, very interesting and intriguing shows, all on their own. But they serve that purpose for ex-cult members of clarifying their own experiences. And they will connect dots themselves. You don't have to do all that dot connecting for them. Let them do it. By doing that kind of work, right? And you don't have to make a big deal about it. You have to watch this show. Oh my God, it's going to change how you think about Scientology. Don't be that blatant and obvious about it, right? Be a little bit more subtle. Hey, I saw this show. I think you might want to check it out, kind of thing. That sort of approach, right, might be useful. This is general advice. I'm really lacking a lot of context on your question here, Ron. But this is where my mind goes in responding to this to start with. So see how those work. What you want to do, here's the goal here, right? If they're already out, right? You don't have to harass them or give them a bunch of shit about it. Eventually, they'll figure stuff out. Hopefully, right? But you can speed the process along if you have their cooperation in getting some education about what happened to them. And and you can do that overtly. You don't have to try to manipulate them or con them into getting educated. I'm just saying, if you're overly enthusiastic about it and like, you need this, you've got to see this, people are going to resist that, right? They don't like that. They don't like being told what to do. But if they're already in a headspace where they're willing to entertain or look at anti-Scientology stuff, right, or anti-cult stuff, or they're even really willing to use that word, then it's really not that hard to go, well, maybe some education about it might be good, or maybe figuring it out might be good, or I found out this very interesting thing about how TRs are a kind of hypnosis. Did you ever think about it that way? Isn't that interesting? Right? That kind of thing might be a way of approaching them without having to lay it on so thick, right? Might be a way to go. I hope that's useful advice. I really do. You can let me know in the comments here. Justin Hobbs, have you ever seen the documentary Holy Hell? I have seen so many goddamn documentaries. I am not sure. Let me look this up. Holy Hell. Oh, yeah, Buddhafield. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. I did see Buddhafield, yeah. I did see Holy Hell, yes. What a show. And then, of course, Buddhafield was also featured on the How to Become a Cult Leader series as well. Okay, so, yeah. Hey, here we go. Kim Kelly. Do you have any advice for reincorporating spirituality back into your life in a healthy way after leaving a high-control religious group? Yes, I do. First off, my first recommendation would be, as much as possible, of course, eschew or rid yourself of any of the belief set or manipulations or lingering thoughts, feelings, whatever you can from your cultic experience, right? Just kind of like cancel all that. However you're going to think about this subject coming into the future, do it in a different way than how that group was presenting it. Otherwise, you might end up reinforcing some of those old cult action patterns or habits or ideas inadvertently, right? So really kind of want to shed yourself of that coil, right, of that skin, right, that old identity. As much as you can, try to do that. And then define for yourself through study, research, reading, talking, discussion, experience, Define for yourself what makes sense to you as to what spirituality even is. What do you mean by that term? Because if you don't do that, other people are going to do it for you. And that word, like the word religion or even the word cult, is a mixed bag of ideas. It's a potpourri, it's a melting pot of tons and tons of ideas from thousands of people over literally thousands of years. There is no agreed upon definition for spirituality or what a spirit is. Is it energy? Is it an energy field? Is it material in any way? Does it exist outside of the physical universe, so to speak, like we talk about with Thetans in Scientology? What does spirituality mean to you? How do you feel it? How do you experience it in your life? What feels spiritual to you? What would be a spiritual experience to you? After you've sort of defined that and looked at that, I would then ask, I would say to you to challenge that idea, to then go, okay, this is my concept of spirituality. It's XYZ. How can I poke holes in that idea all on my own? How can I what can I do with that, right? And sort of solidify it for yourself so that it's something that you can believe in or you can think about and have a solid concept or understanding of it. And the reason that I'm saying all of this and emphasizing it is because I want you to be clear about it so that when someone else, and there are thousands of people out there, who will come along and tell you about your spirituality, tell you what to think about your spirituality, tell you how to interpret your spirituality, and tell you why you're good or bad or well off or bad off because of your spirituality. So if you're not clear on the concept yourself, you're going to fall for this bullshit. Okay? And I want you to avoid that, right? So the way to do that is to be crystal clear in your own mind, within your own self, about what you think about these ideas. Don't let them be loosey-goosey ideas. Really think about it, really challenge yourself on it, really solidify it. For me, when I did this, and I'm not telling you you have to do this, but for me, when I did exactly what I'm telling you right now, I abandoned the concept. Because I realized that there was no way for me, with my values and my way of viewing the world, there was no way for me to solidify the idea and crystallize it into a clear concept because it's too ethereal. It's too airy-fairy for me as a concept. Spirituality. What the hell does that mean? What is a spirit? Can I contain it? Can I put it? Is there a spirit in my Coke bottle right now? How would I know? What is this thing? This is important to get so that other people aren't fooling you or manipulating you with their bullshit about spirituality. So I abandon the concept as a concept, but I'm not saying you have to, but I am saying, since you asked me, here's how to reincorporate it, is think about it, really look at it, really examine it, and give yourself all the time in the world you need to do that. There is no hurry. You got the rest of your life to figure this stuff out. You don't have to have answers today or tomorrow or the next day. That's the great thing about this stuff, is you can just take the time with your own free will and your own imagination and your own knowledge set and belief set. You can figure it out for yourself. And there's no hurry. So that's my best advice on that particular point, right? I hope that's useful or helpful for you. It's an effort on my part to arm you or armor you so that you don't fall for another cult leader or manipulation tactic being used against you in that way. Okay? I hope that helps. All right, let's carry on here. Oh, boy. We got a lot of questions here. Let me see if I can speed up a little bit here because we are coming up to Jesus. Isn't it amazing how fast these hours go by? Man, they just blow me away. We'll probably go a little bit more than an hour today. Liz D, tell us more about this screaming at an ashtray. Okay, very quickly, TR8, training routine 8, I believe. Because what is it? 6, 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, so 8 is upper indoctrination, these are called upper indoctrination training routines. And they are about drilling you or training you in how to exert control over another person's body, controlling objects and things. Okay, you're learning how to control yourself, other people, and objects. And that's the point of these 4 drills. And the idea is you are exerting what is called 8C. This is an expression in Scientology for infinite control. 8 is the infinity symbol on its side. And Hubbard would use this constantly for the infinity symbol turned up on its side. He used the number 8. And then C stands for control, right? 8C, infinite control. And the idea is it is training you into how to exert control without having any reservation, any holdback, I shouldn't be doing this. You get that drilled out of you. You do this drill, you do these 4 drills actually for hours and hours until you are an expert at them. And the idea is you are controlling another person's body. And then the screaming at the ashtray drill is a drill to learn intention. There's a spiritual quality in Scientology referred to as intent or intention, which is your will. And this is heart and soul of Scientology. Remember the occult origins of Scientology. True will, right? This goes all the way back to Crowley and manifesting your intent in the world. This is what Hubbard believed magic would do for him and why we talk about Scientology as a magical ritual. This control thing is heart and soul to this. You have got to learn how to exert your will over another person without any reservation whatsoever and get them to do whatever it is you want them to do. The idea, of course, in Scientology being that by applying Scientology to them, you are helping them. Yeah, sure. So these drills of screaming at an ashtray is one part of a drill where an ashtray is placed in front of a person. They sit down in front of this ashtray and they command the ashtray. And then they make it do the commands with their hands, right? But the ultimate expression of control and intent, you could just levitate that ashtray, right? That's the Scientology sort of belief there, but nobody's really levitating ashtrays. They move it with their hands, right? And the commands you give to the ashtray during this drill are stand up, thank you, sit down in that chair, thank you. Those 2 commands, stand up, sit down in that chair, and you acknowledge it. So you do this drill in different tones of voice, at different volumes, and eventually you're screaming at the ashtray. Stand up! Thank you! Sit down in that chair! Thank you! Right? You're screaming this at this ashtray. The point of the exercise is to teach you, and this is all bullshit, okay? I hope we're all clear on the fact that this is all total horseshit, okay? I sometimes I communicate about this stuff or I describe this stuff in such a way that people go, oh, that sounds interesting. No, it's not. It's not, okay? But the point of the drill one of the points of the drill is for you to learn to differentiate your spiritual intention from your vocal cords. It's not the screaming that gets the job done. It's your intention that gets the job done. And if you had enough intention drummed up in you that you could deliver to somebody, you could whisper it. And they would do immediately what you wanted them to do. It's akin to using the force on someone. That would be a parallel thinking or a parallel example of what the ultimate expression of this in Scientology would look like. You don't need those droids, right? These are not the droids you're looking for, right? This is intention, getting across to another person's mind in such a way that they do what you tell them to do. They think what you want them to think. That is what intention in Scientology is all about. That's why I say it's key. This is absolutely heart and soul stuff of Scientology, is this control factor. And teaching people how to do this was one of Hubbard's things to get them to be in charge of or causative in their life, is you have to have intention, and you have to be able to manifest your intention and execute your intention without any reservation. Don't hold back. Never hold yourself back, right? Always full blown. And in the ultimate expression of intention in Scientology is called tone 40. Top of the tone scale, top of the chart, right? The top of every metric you care to measure is tone 40, where you simply think a thing and it happens. You want to manifest a planet, boom, a planet exists, right? It's like that. That's supposed to be the ultimate expression of that. And these drills yelling at the ashtray and all these other drills connected with it are all designed to tune your ability to do that. That's what that's about. Yeah, I know, but that's what it's about. So, there you go. Yeah, there it is, Joe. That's it. People for Judea or Judean People's Front. Excellent. Yes, Joe, actually, I can tell you about my consultations. Thank you for asking about that. Let me see, make sure this is going up on the screen here. I think it is. Oh, did I make it go away again? I have a little bit of a lag when I see them come up on the screen there. Let's see if I can, there we go. Okay. Yes, I do consultations, guys. If you need help with coercive control or with some situation in your life, or you are, surviving a coercive situation, whether it's domestic partnership, cult situation, or you have family or friends who are somehow in need of assistance with this, you can reach out to me. You can contact me. I will help you with this. I do charge for my time, but I don't charge a lot. And so far I've had 100% happy customers as far as I know. So you can reach out to me through my website, mncriticalthinking.com. There's a contact form there. Or you can write to me at AskChrisShelton@gmail.com and we can get in touch. I have a couple of forms that I send out. There's a legal agreement and stuff, right? To protect you, protect me, all that kind of stuff. But I do that work, and I am happy to help you if you want to reach out to me on that matter. Thank you, Joe, for reminding me to talk about that. Let's see here. X-Cyan asks, what was your favorite TR, upper end doc or otherwise? I would say my favorite was Bullbait, if I'm being honest, because I loved being a cut-up. I loved making other people laugh. And Bullbait is great for practicing your stand-up routines, right? We all have our little jokes and our little stand-up routines that we have. And Bullbait is great for pushing people's buttons and making them laugh and stuff like that. So I don't know. That was always my favorite one. I generally did not like doing TRs. I thought they were... can I say I didn't like doing them? I didn't like them. I mean, especially the zeros, which I spent way more time on than any other TR. So, yeah. Let's see here. Oh, sure. Chaotic Kitten says here, are you familiar with 12-step programs like Alcoholics Anonymous? I see similarities between them and Scientology, especially with steps 4 and 5 compared to auditing. Okay. I actually did years and years ago. I actually did a whole podcast about whether Alcoholics Anonymous as a 12-step program is a destructive cult or not. And my answer to the question, and I know a lot of people disagree with me on this, but my answer is no, it's not. However, That doesn't mean there aren't parallels. And it also doesn't mean that individual groups or chapters cannot get very, very culty. It depends very much on who's running the show, and on terms of your sponsor-sponsoree relationship, that can become a codependent relationship if you all aren't careful, which is why 12-step programs and Alcoholics Anonymous specifically can run into trouble so often, because they are untrained individuals. These are people who don't have formal training in how to prevent the pitfalls of what happens in groups like that when you're trying to engage in pseudo-therapeutic or, addictive therapy kind of practices. So it has a lot of risks involved, but it can also be very, very helpful too. And for no charge and group support and stuff like that, there's honest help available there. I'm not going to trash Alcoholics Anonymous and say it never helped anybody or anything like that, because I know it has. But yes, it can absolutely get culty. And it's very, very unfortunate to me when that happens. People get too full of themselves, or they get stuck up in this codependent relationship, or the social dynamics of the group get weird. That can really mess things up. So you gotta go into these groups with your eyes open. And unfortunately, people who do go into these groups are at rock bottom. And so, they will give over their power, and they will, surrender to the higher authority and all that. And that's fine. I get the point of each of these steps. I'm not saying that they're destructive. I'm really not. I'm saying that it can have caution, be wary, be careful. Right. Have your eyes open. And that's generally good advice no matter what you're doing anyway. So that's what I can say about that. I can't speak intelligently about steps 4 and 5, specifically Chaotic Kitten, because I remember step 1 as the surrender step, but I don't remember all 12 steps of 12-step programs off the top of my head. I'm unfortunately not that familiar with it. And like I said, it was years ago that I did a podcast with a guy named John Stewart, not the John Stewart, a different John Stewart, about this exact topic. And we talked for like an hour or two about it. So you can look that up on my Sensibly Speaking podcast if you're curious what else I had to say about it back then. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Follow up, OBG Foster. As a would-be fiction writer, how did you not see that LRH's writings were all fiction? He was a fiction writer. Because I grew up in Scientology. I mean, come on. What do you mean, how did I not see it? Because I was primed my entire life to see L. Ron Hubbard as a genius philosopher who also happened to write fiction. It annoys me when I hear this particular line of reasoning, as though writers can't also do other things professionally. And I don't mean to be like snarky, but I'm just like, come on. We thought L. Ron Hubbard was this genius philosopher guy, and we didn't look at L. Ron Hubbard's nonfiction writings in Scientology and go, he's so full of it. He's just making all this up. Ha, ha, ha. That's not the mindset. It's not how we approach the material. We thought we were reading facts, and we thought we were in a euphoric state of mind about those facts. We were excited about it. We were, what's the other word? We were giddy with the knowledge that the Matrix was real, that science fiction had a basis in reality, that we had power, that we could reestablish ourselves as powerful spiritual beings who could overcome the problems of life. These are good things to want, even if they are delusory. The intention was good, right? And it's this little snarky, how do you not see he was a fiction writer? It's like, come on, man. What are you trying to do with comments like that? You're so stupid. That's how it comes across. And it's really annoying. So anyway, sorry if I'm reacting a little bit, but I just don't appreciate that. Okay, moving right along. Oh, God. Who do you think was the most incompetent and stupid cult leader? Keith Raniere, as an example. Keith Raniere? I think it's Keith Raniere, not Raniere. For some reason, I keep saying Keith Raniere. I've got that stuck in my mind with him. Who do you think was the most incompetent and stupid cult leader? Not Keith. Keith was actually pretty crafty. And he learned from his mistakes, and he learned from other cult leaders. Unfortunately, he didn't learn enough to overcome his own egotism and megalomania, which is a common mistake with these guys. It's not their intelligence that's the problem. It's their moral foundations and their psychosis that's the problem. Okay, so let's see. God, most incompetent and stupid. I mean, incompetent and stupid people don't tend to make it as cult leaders. Oh gosh, I was gonna say Ahsoka. Not Ahsoka. What am I saying? The Asahara, the sarin gas guy, but he was actually pretty smart too. It's a hard question, Anthony. I'm gonna have to think about this one. Actually, I don't have a snap answer for that one. It sounds like a real easy answer. Oh yeah, this guy. Not so much. I actually have to think about that one. All right, let's move along here. One, two, three, Gedenkind Seinfrei. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but looking at psychiatry and industry of death, I was struck by how similar the global conspiracy of psychiatrists is to the global Jewish conspiracy proposed by the Nazis. Was Hubbard, quote unquote, inspired? Wow, you posted this 3 times. Okay. I can't say that Hubbard was directly inspired by Nazi think. Hubbard fought the Nazis. Hubbard didn't like the Nazis. Hubbard didn't think the Nazis were a good bunch of guys. He never, ever indicated anything to say that the Nazis had it right. So I don't think Hubbard was actually inspired by the Nazis. The thing about global conspiracy theories is there has to be a scapegoat. There has to be a group or individuals who are running the show, who are conspiring to control everybody else. That's the model, right? And whether it's the Jewish people or whether it's some global consortium of bankers and financiers and media conglomerates, which was Hubbard's approach to it, actually. See, psychiatry and the global conspiracy of that Scientology forwards, psychiatry is not the total sum of the bad guys. Psychiatry is the execution arm of the bad guys. The bad guys are 12 men Hubbard named who run international finance, media, and government. And the psychiatrists are their enforcement arm. If they want to do away with you, if you're some thorn in their side, they'll send the psychs after you. They'll have you declared incompetent or insane, and they'll throw you into an insane asylum and lock you up, and nobody ever hears from you again. That's not as easy to do now as it used to be, and this is why Hubbard would take this as his bad guys. And he made out the psychiatrists to be really, really bad guys, but they were not the ones in charge. And it would depend a little bit on when and where Hubbard was talking about this too, because sometimes he would heavily emphasize psychiatry as the main big bad guys, and other times it was these 12 men, or it was these power players, or it was the Rockefellers, or it was the Rothschilds, or something like that. But he never, in all the time, in all the conspiracy things that I ever read in Scientology, and I think I read all of them. I never read the Farsec reference, but I think I read everything Hubbard had to say about psychiatry and psychology and the 12 men and all of that. And in everything I read and saw, Hubbard never once inferred or implied that it was a Jewish conspiracy. He never, ever went there. So, at least not that I can remember or have any recall of. So, anti-Semitic, when compared to other conspiracy theories that are anti-Semitic, Scientology does compare to them. But I really don't think that was Hubbard's approach. As you know, as crazy or odd as that might sound, it's that's what I can say about that, right? Hubbard had there's no question about it, Hubbard was a racist. And Hubbard had racist things to say about black South Africans and blacks in other places. He definitely had things to say about that. He also had things to say about Chinese, about Indians, as in people from the India subcontinent, right? He had things to say about that class of people, and they were racist. So I will label Hubbard as a racist, absolutely. But I have a hard time seeing how Hubbard could be called anti-Semitic. I'm stretching right now. If somebody could show me some quotes or some issues or something that where he does that, then I would obviously be willing to change my mind. But as I sit here right now, I don't see it. So that's what I can say about that, at least in a short answer here. Okay, follow-up from Chaotic Kitten. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. I am going to say that is not the damaging part of auditing. Thank you, Chaotic Kitten, for clarifying that. The reason why Scientology confessions and auditing and enforced, gangbang sect checks and all of that, the reason why those things are destructive to a person is not because they're confessing to crimes, or getting things off their chest of wrongdoing. That there's nothing wrong with that. Confession, as in and of itself, is cathartic. Let's make no mistake about that. Getting stuff off your chest, being able to safely, confidentially or not, that's not the key factor, right? It's getting stuff off your chest, unburdening yourself of your sins or moral transgressions or, how you have screwed up is cathartic. It's helpful. It helps us unload guilt the same way we can unload trauma, right? That's a good thing. And in an Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program, that's a necessary thing. Because if you go through that program and you have never recognized that you did anything wrong, you're not going to really be a product of that program, are you? So you've got to have a step where you confess to or realize or admit to the fact you've been a bad boy. You did bad things. Maybe you stole, maybe you this, maybe you that, and you confess to it. There's nothing wrong with that. The reason Scientology auditing and security checking is so harmful is because it forces you to do that. It forces you to make up answers if you don't have any, and they won't let you out of the room until you satisfy the conditions of the e-meter and the auditor. It's not for you, it's for them. Your confessions are not there to make you feel better. It's to give them the dope on you so they can blackmail you later or extort you later or whatever. That's a whole different situation. It also happens to involve confession, but it's not the confession part that's the bad part. I hope I'm making that clear as a point, okay? So when you describe these to me of doing a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves in a safe space with friendly people around you who are supporting you and are not trying to extort you or blackmail you for your crimes, it would be a good thing, a cathartic thing for somebody to do such a step, provided it wasn't used against them or used to invalidate them or used to make them feel worse about themselves after the fact, which is what Scientology does with that information. As far as admitting to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, that's confession. It's, again, as an activity, it's not a bad thing to do. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. Let's carry on here and let's see if more comes our way. Oh, okay, almost there. Yeah. Let's see here. Raniere. Oh, okay. Oh, it's Raniere. All right, so I am getting that right. I've been corrected on that. I think that's why I'm always hesitant on Keith's name. Let me look up this person here, OBG Foster. Oh, yeah. OBG Foster says Jody Hildebrandt was probably qualified as stupid and incompetent. She got caught. Yeah, I don't think she was the smartest cookie. That's for sure. I will agree with you on that one for 100%. Okay, I think it's time for us to wrap up. Yeah, it's been an hour 18. I think we've done a pretty good show here. Hey, guys, thank you very much for coming around and listening to me gabber on at a mad rate about all this. I think I've addressed all of the questions. Okay, yeah, let's wrap up. Thank you very much for coming around. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for supporting my channel. Do check out my ideal studio list in the description section below. Sign up on Patreon, send me some love through PayPal, whatever. You guys are the ones helping make this thing go, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And bye-bye.